Hi, happy Father's Day to every father, every adopted father, every wannabe father, and those that are living in a female body. Today's Father's Day, so we salute fathers and grandfathers and uncles and anyone who played that role of father in someone's life. Fathers don't get all the accolades that mothers do on Mother's Day, and a little boy had this definition of Father's Day. It's just like Mother's Day, only you don't spend as much. We often don't acknowledge our fathers in the same way as we do our mothers as well. So another child's definition of fatherhood was this: a father is a man who carries pictures in his wallet where his money used to be. We do want to wish all fathers a happy Father's Day, whether they are alive or past. And to anyone who has fathered expertly, and even to fathers who have failed miserably, it's a blessed and complicated role. Fatherhood brings love and joy and pain and suffering. It's definitely not for the faint of heart. Whether you are a birth father or whether you adopt it, choosing to love and to care for a life is of the highest order. It's a most sacred calling. You've been ordained by the beloved to teach your children how to be faithful, courageous, and strong, to always be there to love and guide them, to teach them in a firm and gentle way how to do the right thing, to help them when they're feeling down, to be ever firm in your ideals so as to set an example for them of how to live their life, and to be ready at any moment to protect, counsel, and uplift them when they need your strength. When you said yes to the role of fatherhood, it was a blessing. So may you feel blessed, loved, and appreciated today, even if your children don't know exactly how to express that. Paul Harvey gave a definition of a father. A father is a thing that is forced to endure childbirth without any anesthetic. He never feels worthy of the worship in his child's eyes. He's never quite the hero his daughter thinks him to be, never quite the man his son believes him to be, and this worries him sometimes. So he works too hard to try and smooth out the rough places in the road for those of his own who will follow him. Fathers give daughters away to other men who aren't nearly good enough, so that they can have grandchildren who are smarter than anybody else's. So we take this theme of fatherhood today and we move into a theme of embracing the masculine. And your question for the day is this: what's the one choice that you can make today to bless each soul who has played the role of showing you how to embrace the masculine, how to live those qualities of strength and courage in your life? So here's the question one more time. What's the one choice that you can make today to bless each soul who has played that role of showing you how to embrace the masculine, how to live those qualities of strength and courage in your life? In today's reading, we heard this quote by Waldo Emerson: "What lies behind us and what lies before us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us." That speaks volumes about who we really are. I know I said this on Mother's Day, that some of us were not as fortunate as I was to have very loving parents. Not all fathers actually took that advice from Proverbs 22:6. It said this: "Direct your children onto the right path, and when they're older, they will not leave it." I had two fathers, a dad and a papa. They were both nurturing and loving and kind. They showed me how to live by example. They were courageous and strong in their convictions. They disciplined me, and their discipline was stern but loving. And their love for me gave me an inner strength. I knew who I wanted to be, who I knew I could be, How else would I have become an engineer in 1966 when it was almost unheard of to have female engineers? Both my fathers were great examples of what should lie within me as a person, of what kind of inner strength I needed to have, how I could recognize my own inner strengths and also recognize my limitations. What were my gifts? What was important to me and what wasn't? And to have the courage to go for whatever it was that I wanted to do. I understand that some people had a father who was absent. Some people had a father that was home, but still wasn't present. And even worse, some people had a father who was present and abusive. And today, I'm just going to invite you to accept and bless your father exactly the way he was. Regardless of who he was in your life, that particular man had a role in making you who you are today. Even the fathers that didn't know how to love us, who didn't know how to be great examples, played a role in who we became as we became adults. So when we choose to release what lies behind us and live in the present, there's a great possibility that we're able to find a comfortable place in our own skin. We're capable of figuring out what it is that we've come here to this planet to do and who we're capable of being. We might even discover that it's no longer necessary for us to pretend to be courageous. It's no longer necessary for us to masquerade behind that facade of bravado, as the reading said. Wondering who is the truth of who we are. When we can release the fear of speaking our own truth, no matter who's listening, we have discovered that inner strength of who we are. When we're able to let go of the past and not concentrate on the future, but just live in what lies within us right now, we discover that we probably really like who we could be or who we are at the moment. The reading today also included this little bit of wisdom. Inner strength comes from the truth of spirit within me. I lean on spirit, knowing spirit is strong enough for anything. So I'm curious how often you might lean on spirit, knowing that you can be deeply rooted in the strength that spirit has to provide for you. Spirit knows only love, compassion, grace, kindness. How often do we actually lean on spirit? Because spirit is strong enough for anything. I invited you in the meditation to think of someone who was important in your life, someone who showed you how to be strong and courageous. Because it didn't necessarily have to be a male, but today being Father's Day, it might likely have been. Many of the stereotypes of gender are slowly dissolving. Women are considered much stronger than they used to be. Fathers are typically associated with being the ones with strength and courage, but we know now that that's a role that's played across the genders. And mothers are usually known as the loving, nurturing ones, and men are learning how to nurture and how to be involved in their small children's lives. In many ways, I think we can take this time and this expansion of the roles into our spiritual lives, into that great power that we call upon, that spirit that's right within us, so that we can live with a conviction of who we are and who we know we've come here to be. In our spiritual life, it's very important that we recognize that there is a power within us from which we cannot be separated. Now, we can choose to forget it for a while, but there is a power within us, a spirit within us that can do anything, and spirit does not separate from us. We may occasionally turn our backs on that power, but as long as we recognize it and stay awake to that power, we can do anything. And one of the things that I love about the Bible is there's a quote that says, that the Father is very well pleased about who we really are. So as I think about that phrase in the Bible, God being really well pleased with us, recognizing that for many years, I wanted to please others, sometimes to my own detriment. Maybe it's a Southern woman thing, I don't know. But can you imagine if we knew that there was only one life, and that life was the life that matters, that life was the one life that was beyond humanness, and that our Father was always well pleased? Would we strive to be accepted by others, or would we strive to be who we were? How great would it be if we could embrace those words of our opening song? God is my source. God is my power. God gives me everything I need. Today's talk is about embracing the masculine. And it's truly about fathering ourselves. Whatever kind of parents we had, we can learn to know the real strength within us, to know the real courage within us. We can learn to be exactly who we are and be brave enough to stand in those shoes, no matter who's listening, 100% of the time. Proverbs 23:7 said, "As a man thinking in his own heart, so is he." And I would probably reword that for today's life. As a person thinks in one's own heart, so that person is. So today I'm going to invite you to notice how you think about yourself in your heart. Just think about that for a second. If you were really to go in and ask your heart who you were, what might come up with some of the answers? Are you willing to build a life that's based on a foundation of the conviction that being yourself is all that matters? Being who you are is all that matters. That shaping what you think in secret in your own heart is the essence of courage and strength. So I'm going to invite you again to think about that person from the meditation who showed up to teach you how to be strong, to teach you to live in the courage of the convictions of who you are, to stand in the truth of speaking your own truth. And as you think about that person, what kind of qualities came to mind? What kind of God qualities might you assign to them? I suspect that trust would be one of them. Because when we trust someone, we're able to have a deep relationship with them. We get to know them and share our lives with them at a totally different level than just an acquaintance. So if you were going to father yourself, how do you trust yourself? Do you trust those things that pop up for you and tell you maybe that, oh, that was pretty amazing what I just did? Or do you dismiss them? Do you take the time to deepen your connection with yourself and with what lies within you? To tap into the Spirit and connect to that Spirit that is within you. And how about encouragement? Was that person encouraging? When we encourage others, we create a deeper awareness for them of their true essence. Encouragement fosters the strength it takes to stand up to obstacles that may come in our way when we're trying to live our lives. So the question is, do you take the time to encourage yourself to go for your dreams? Do you foster within yourself a strength to confront adversity? Hebrews 10:25 says this, "Let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds. Let us not give up meeting together, as some are in the habit of doing, but let us encourage one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching." But what I would ask you is, as your day begins, do you take the time to meet with yourself and encourage yourself to love who you are? And how about that person in the meditation? Were they supportive? In Creative Living, our founding father, Ernest Holmes, wrote this: "We should allow the gifts of life to flow out to everything we touch, everyone we meet, every situation we contact. Then, wherever we go, every situation is blessed, every person is helped, every discord is harmonized without our even being conscious of it." It just becomes second nature if we are supportive of the people in our lives. So how often do you allow that spirit within you to support you through a particular situation, whether it be a dream or an adversity? How often do you allow spirit to lift you up even higher, or to lift you out of some adversity that you're dealing with? And do you support your dreams by taking action on them? Or do you just think about it? How do you let your gifts flow out of you? Another quality, compassion. Ernest Holmes described compassion as the outpouring of the divine givingness through man. And he also said that compassion was a part of a unified attempt to uncover the divinity in each other. So how often are you compassionate with yourself? How often does something come up and you beat yourself up over it? Hey, I can do that. I can go down that path really fast sometimes. It's important that we take the time each day to uncover the divinity that's within us, to be compassionate with ourselves. It's part of embracing the masculine, finding that compassion for ourselves. Another quality that I think is very important when we look at the masculines is observation. A lot of fathers like to just watch. They're not necessarily actively involved, although many fathers are these days. But when I was growing up, a lot of fathers weren't actively involved with their family. They were the breadwinners, and the mother was supposed to take care of the kids and make sure that the kids had what they need. But fathers often take time to observe their children, often in an attempt to figure out who they are and who they're becoming, because their relationship was different with them. So how often do you pause, if you're going to father yourself, and just notice what you're doing and who you're being on this planet? How often are you actually paying attention to your actions and whether or not they're congruent with what you say you really want? A lot of times we say we want something. It might be we want to paint more, we want to write more, we want to do a blog better. But if you don't make it a priority in your life, if you don't set aside time to do it, then you're not being congruent with what you say you want, because your actions are saying, well, I really want to spend more time at work, or I really want to do this, rather than actually write or paint or whatever else it is that's your way of relaxing or really connecting with that spirit within you. There are so many qualities that encompass embracing the masculine. And I've only gone through a few highlights of them, and I have one more that I think is extremely important. Was the person that you brought up in your meditation reliable and responsible? As a member of community that believes in the unity of life, we're called to recognize that being reliable and being responsible involves boldly making ourselves available to the commitments that we make. And I believe that there's also, because we are a community of conscious spiritual living, that we want to be loving all people on the planet. And that takes being reliable every day to your spiritual practices. It takes noticing and a responsibility of watching your emotions, and when you're in judgment saying, I bet you that person is just doing the best they can right now with the information that they have. I had a friend tell me one time, she's so much in judgment about people that are judgers. And it's like, it's really kind of funny because it's true. Sometimes we see in other people those things that we don't like, but we do them anyway. Ernest Holmes said, "The law of mind gives us back our words in form, and this is not always a pleasant experience. Students of the science of mind should make an honest attempt to control their speech, watch their words, and always say that which is loving and wise." We very often say thoughts or things, and our words have power. So if we want our words to have power, they should come out of us in a loving, kind, compassionate, gentle way. I'm not saying this is easy. We all have our moments of being upset about something or aggravated. Mine this past week was around technology. I couldn't upload things from my phone because they've changed how you can do that. But when we see ourselves and others from the eyes of the divine, we are able to do what the song said. I see joy. I see peace, I see happiness, I see freedom, I see good surrounding me, love in every breath I take, God in everything. But I think the most important lines of the song were the last ones. I know the beauty that lives in me. I know perfection and what life brings. I know God in everything. Can you imagine your life if you embraced the beauty in you, truly embraced it, and knew that life brings perfection no matter what it looks like on the outside, because we're a community that believes there is no spot where God is not. So how can anything not be perfect the way it is, even though there might need to be some growth? If we could accept ourselves and bless ourselves, no matter what we do, even in those times where we get upset, even in those times when we get angry, even in those times when we would just want to go hide and stick ourselves in the sand. If we could do that, then we're seeing the perfection in everything. We're seeing God in everything. So before ending, I'd like to share with you some words from the author Kevin Renner, and it was in his book, In Search of Fatherhood, A Motherlode of Wisdom from the World of Daughterhood. Our parents hold countless beliefs, most of them unconscious. The world is dangerous, or work is something you do at a company, or men need to support their families. Getting drunk isn't a big deal. Belief guide parents' behavior, which in turn forms the family culture. Children internalize much of that culture, and the beliefs get implanted in their minds without fanfare. Sometimes we recognize those beliefs, and sometimes we don't. And Kevin goes on to say, many remain unconscious and put our lives on autopilot. The lucky among us get help digging through their old tapes and how they govern our perception, feelings, and behaviors. I actually believe it's the strong and courageous, not the lucky, that dig among those old tapes. It takes courage. It takes an inner strength to notice how our parents' beliefs have governed our own perceptions, our own feelings, our own behaviors. So trust yourself. Trust what you know within you in your inner strength, and be strong and courageous. Our parents and our parental figures planted seeds within our minds, and separating the flowers of wisdom from the weeds that grew in those flowers is no easy task. So I want to stop and repeat those words that I started with from Waldo Emerson. What lies behind us and what lies before us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us. So may you fathers and your father figures have a fabulous day. And may each of us have the inner wisdom to notice what lies within us. I invite you to challenge yourself this week to find room for your own greatness, to notice the amazing you that lies within. And remember that God is in everything. So let's pray. So I just stand here knowing that divine, knowing the love and the acceptance, the generosity, the freedom, the joy that the divine is. And I know that that spirit lives right in me and right in each of us, in each person listening to this. That spirit of acceptance, of love, of freedom, lives right within, in our heart. So what I know to be the truth today and throughout this week and this month is that each of us are looking at all of those qualities of masculine behavior, all of those qualities that the person that we thought about in our meditation brought about. And we're asking ourselves the question, am I loving myself? Am I encouraging myself? Am I being reliable and responsible? And am I being compassionate? Because I know each of us knows that conscious spiritual living requires us to love ourselves deeply so that we can spread that love on this planet. So I am grateful. I'm grateful for this time we had today. I'm grateful for this community. I'm grateful to know that there is one life that's God's life, and that life is my life right here and right now. And it's the life of every person on this planet. So from all that gratitude, I just release these words into the law of mind, spirit, and action, because I know the truth, that God is right where we are. God has already made everything that we've thought about possible. That the divine has already called all of this good. So I can just say amen, and we can affirm it together. And so it is.